안녕하세요. 여러분의 한국어 선생님 고빌리입니다. Last time I made a few videos grading some celebrities speaking in Korean, and one of the most common requests that I got was to grade the Korean of Sana from the K-pop group Twice. Now, I wasn't too familiar with Twice before I started researching this video, although of course I did know some of their songs. But anyway, when I started researching, I realized that several other members of the group Twice also are non-native Korean speakers. First of all, Sana, Mina, and Momo are all Japanese speakers, and Tsuyu, or as she's called in Korean, Jui, is Taiwanese and speaks Chinese. So in this video, I'm going to focus on Sana and Momo's Korean skills, and later I'll make another video about Mina and Jui. And I'm going to analyze how each of them speaks Korean, including what they do well, how they can improve, and everything in between. But first, if you'd like to see more videos like this one, please give this video a like and subscribe. So let's get started. For those of you who are new to this channel, I am a Korean teacher. I'm not a native Korean speaker. I speak fluent Korean, but I'm not perfect or even close to perfect. So I'm not going to be able to give a perfect analysis or catch every mistake they make, but I will do my best. First, let's talk about Sana. Sana was born in 1996 in Osaka, Japan, and she moved to Korea at the age of 16 in 2012 and started training with JYP Entertainment. After that, she joined the K-pop group Twice in 2015. I couldn't find a lot of information about exactly how Sana started learning Korean, but it's safe to assume that she didn't speak any before she started her training. All right, so let's watch the first clip of Sana.
사나는 진짜 한국말 잘하잖아요.
저요?
어떻게 공부했어요?
한국에 와서 처음으로 이제 그때부터 한국어를 배웠는데 레슨도 받으면서 이제 안무 수업이나 이제 보컬 수업 같은 거 받으면서 좀 많이
아, 발음이 진짜 좋아요. 지금 완벽해요. 저보다 잘하세요. 아나운서 같아요, 진짜.
After Sana starts speaking Korean, the announcer comments that he thinks she sounds like a TV announcer, and I agree. The tone of her voice, the way that she pronounces each of her syllables is clear. She's not slurring her speech together to hide mistakes. She's confident in what she's saying, and it's really impressive. It's good. It's better than me. But that doesn't mean it's 100% perfect. Okay, again, in order to even analyze the Korean of someone like Sana, who's already clearly fluent in Korean, we're going to have to nitpick. But I wanted to start out by saying that in all of the clips that I found of Sana speaking in Korean, she sounds amazing. And despite moving to Korea at 16, which is usually a bit too late to sound like a native, Sana is pretty darn close. So what could be improved? Well, let's take another look at this clip at the part where she says vocal class or 보컬 수업.
안무 수업이나 이제 보컬 수업 같은 거 받으면서 좀 많이
The word for vocal is 보컬, so 보컬 수업, vocal class. But that's not exactly what she says.
이제 보컬 수업 같은 거 받으면서 좀
Before I even started really sinking my teeth into Korean, I had studied Japanese for about 3 years or so, and I got maybe to an intermediate level. And Japanese uses a syllabic writing system, which means that each of those characters they write represents a full syllable, so a vowel and consonant together, with some exceptions. But one thing that Japanese doesn't have that Korean does is a distinction between strong consonants and double consonants. For example, the Korean sounds ko and go could both be written in Japanese the same way as just ko. Now, of course, Japanese speakers learning Korean are aware of this, and they know that their language can't properly represent Korean sounds, so they learn them the same way that an English speaker learns Korean sounds. But I still find often with native Japanese speakers learning Korean that you can hear an accent because of their language not making a distinction between strong consonants and double consonants. So let's listen to her say this again.
보컬 수업 같은 거 받으면서 좀
It's very slight, but she says this word as 보컬, 보컬, 걸, with the double consonant.
이제 보컬 수업 같은 거 받으면서 좀
She's not giving enough air to this consonant to make it into 컬. So 보컬, 보컬. Is this what my channel has become? I've got no ideas that all I can do is critique the Korean of people who already speak it fluently? Yeah, I guess. Sana, your Korean is fantastic. And I've only listened to one clip so far. So let's get the next clip.
사나도 안되는 한국말 발음 있어요?
엉덩이,
아, 예, 역시. 엉,
엉,
덩,
당,
이, 엉덩이.
엉덩이.
발음이 그러니까 이런 발음이 어려워요.
Here, Sana is struggling with pronouncing the letter iung. Normally, beginning of the syllable, this letter has no sound, so this would just be pronounced as E. But at the end of a syllable, this letter has an NG sound. So in this word, which is the name of this letter, iung, it has an ung sound, iung, iung. Now, it's not that Japanese does not have this sound at all. In fact, I think in some cases they do with their G letter, such as in the Japanese word for the language Japanese, Nihongo. You have that slight NG sound there too, Nihongo. But in Japanese, it's not used at the end of syllables the way that it is in Korean, and Sana clearly has some difficulties with this letter.
엉덩이.
엉덩이.
So hear the word 엉덩이, which means butt. Sana says it like 엉덩이, which is really cute. And this letter is something that you'll find a lot of native Japanese speakers have trouble pronouncing. But I'm not going to take away any points for this. I mean, come on. She's so cute. Okay, let's watch the next clip of her.
초능력은 저희 시근할 때 한 면씩 맡은 초능력이 있었는데 반두면 초능력을 주셔서 저는 완전 투명의 인간이 되는 초능력을 갖고 싶습니다.
If I have to find anything in her response that's not perfect, it would be her pronunciation of the word 초능력 for superpower, which she says here 4 times as 초능력. So almost perfect.
초능력은 맡은 초능력이 있었는데 반두면 초능력을 주셔서 되는 초능력을 갖고 싶습니다.
And this has to do with the difference between the vowels o and a. In Japanese, there is no distinction between o and a. O is made by rounding the lips, so more of an o sound. O, o. While a is made by slightly lengthening your lips vertically, so more of an oval shaped, and you get the sound of aw, aw, aw. Here, that would be the difference between 초 and 쳐, and she's saying it more like 쳐, and it should be 초능력, 초능력.
초능력은
Listening to her speak in this clip, though, it's 100% clear what she's saying, and you know, it doesn't even really sound wrong. Okay, so let's go on to our next clip.
연습생 때는 처음에는 저는 외국인이니까 좀 모르는 척을 많이 했어요. 혼날 때나 그럴 때.
아, 일부러?
네.
알아듣는데?
네.
예를 들면 어떤 거였어요? 뭐 때문에? 예.
저희 회사에서 막 연습실에서 뭐 음식을 먹고 있으면
그렇지.
막 벌점을 받고.
야,
네.
이거 음식 먹으면 안 돼. 여기 왜 음식 먹니? 뭐 예를 들면 이렇게 하면. 야, 먹으면 안 된다고? 왜? 저기 왜 먹어?
나니?
와, 대박이다.
You can nitpick it. Okay. I found a mistake. And it's the way that she pronounces the word 벌점.
저희 회사에서 막 연습실에서 뭐 음식을 먹고 있으면
그렇지.
막 벌점을 받고.
야, 이거
네.
Sana says 벌점, but it should have been 벌점 due to sound change rules. It's so small. Just let's just watch the next clip. Maybe I'll find something better.
토끼 머리띠를 몰래 꺼내요. 착용하고 귀여운 포즈. 인물 시점에게도 씌워주는 사나.
After watching a lot of clips of Sana over these past few days, I think that her pronunciation, which isn't perfect, is a part of her charm. But this clip does give me a lot of insight into her Korean learning process. It does seem from watching her that when she is reading in Korean, she doesn't understand what she's reading until after she said it out loud. And there are a few parts of this clip that give that away, such as when she stutters before saying the word 착용하고, which comes from a verb that means to wear something.
착용하고 귀여운 포즈.
Although I am 100% sure that she knows this word because it's a basic word. Because of the way that she's reading it, it sounds like she didn't know the word.
착용하고
So my guess is that Sana has been learning Korean almost exclusively through speaking and not so much through reading. And also what makes me think this is when she's speaking, she sounds very fast and very natural. So I'd be really curious to see if there are any more recent clips of her reading Korean. Perhaps she's gotten faster since then. Okay, so my final grade for Sana is 10 out of 10 for Korean and 11 out of 10 for being cute. One more thing, Sana has some of the nicest Korean handwriting I've ever seen. Just look at that. Wow. Now, there are a few very minor grammatical mistakes. For example, there shouldn't be a topic marker after 오늘, and I would remove 잘 in 부탁드리겠습니다 at the end. But her penmanship is awesome. And I think that most native Koreans would wish that they could write this nicely. Absolutely beautiful writing. All right, next let's talk about another non-native Korean-speaking member of TWICE, and that is Momo.
안녕하세요. 모모 선생님이라고 합니다. 다 같이 모모 선생님이라고 불러주세요.
I wish Momo was my Korean teacher, although I probably wouldn't have learned very much. Momo was also born in 1996, but in Kyoto, Japan. And I wasn't able to find exactly when she first started learning Korean, but she's been interested in Korea since she was at least 16 years old, so the same as Sana. And since both Sana and Momo are native Japanese speakers, I would expect to find the same kinds of pronunciation mistakes, but we'll see. Okay, so here is Momo.
등잔 밑에 어둡다. 왜 이거? 등장했는데 밑에 어두워. 이해를 못하겠어요. 집중이 안 되네요. 점점 머리에 안 돌아가요, 머리가. 팬분들이랑 더 말하고 싶으니까 더 많이 한국어를 배우고 싶어요.
I can already hear some pronunciation differences between Momo and Sana. First of all, just through this clip, I have an idea of her overall Korean knowledge. The idiom that she's confused about here is 등잔 밑이 어둡다, which means it's dark beneath the oil lamp. This is an idiom that means the closer that you are to a problem, the harder it can be to figure it out. And this is not an especially difficult idiom, but it's not one that you'd come across unless you were spending a lot of time in Korea or studying with advanced textbooks. But the issue is not that she didn't know this idiom, it's her pronunciation, specifically sound change rules.
등잔 밑에 어둡다. 왜 이거?
This is pronounced as 등잔 밑이 어둡다. So not 밑에, but 밑이.
등잔 밑에 어둡다.
And this is because whenever you have the letter tiat, which is at the bottom of the word 밑, meaning beneath, and it comes before the sound E, it becomes chi. So here the word 미치 and not 미티, 미치. However, what she says isn't even 미티 or 미치. She says 밑에. 밑에 is a common way that this word 밑, below, is used in Korean. For example, you could say that something is below the bridge by saying 다리 밑에 있어요. And I think what she did here is she saw this word 밑, below, and without reading how it was being used or what letter it was with, she just read it as the first thing that popped into her mind, which was 밑에. But there's one more thing that I wanted to point out in this clip, and that's an idiom that she uses toward the end.
이해를 못하겠어요. 집중이 안 되네요. 점점 머리에 안 돌아가요, 머리가.
I want to point out something that Momo does really well. That's her ability to use natural Korean idioms. She clearly learned Korean by speaking with native Korean speakers, and as a result, she uses a lot of natural expressions. 머리 안 돌아가요 is an idiom that means your brain isn't working properly or you can't think straight.
점점 머리에 안 돌아가요, 머리가.
In fact, all three of her expressions here are natural. But for those of you who are fans of TWICE, this wouldn't be a proper critique of Momo without a few of her funnier mistakes. So here's a clip. Here Twice is playing a game called 끝말잇기, which is a game where you have to say a word that starts with the last syllable of the previous word that was said. So if you were playing and the previous person says the word kimchi, well, you could say chi yak and then yakguk, kind of like that.
산낙지.
나산낙지. 그렇게 길게. 지.
치즈 떡볶이. 치즈 떡볶이.
좀더 치즈보다 좀 더 끈적한 거.
치즈 떡볶이. 쿵쿵따.
Jui gives her the word 산낙지, which means raw octopus. And Momo replies with 치즈 떡볶이, which is not a word.
치즈 떡볶이. 치즈 떡볶이. 치즈 떡볶이.
치즈 떡볶이 is not a word. She was trying to say 치즈 떡볶이, which is 떡볶이 with cheese added. Now, this isn't too surprising to me because, as I mentioned, it's common for native Japanese speakers to have difficulties distinguishing regular consonants, double consonants, and strong consonants. The word for cheese is 치즈, and chi is essentially just chi, but with more air added to it. So, chi.
치즈 떡볶이. 치즈 떡볶이.
And I have one more clip of Momo.
안녕하세요.
이제 세밀 단위를 이제 처음 공부할 건데요. 일단 집을 세는 단위가 뭔지 아세요?
네?
집을 세는 단위.
집을 세는 단위? 단위가 무슨 뜻이야?
뭘 셀 때 쓰는 말.
셀 때 쓰는 말? 그거 아니에요? 맞죠? 네? 맞죠?
한 개, 두 개 이런 식으로.
아! 어떻게 세는지 이거지?
네.
이거죠?
또 두 번째는 이제 뜨개질 매듭을 세는 단위.
레드불?
네.
레드불? 레드불?
바느질 알아요?
에?
바느질.
바느질?
네.
아, 이거?
네.
이거?
I mentioned that Momo seems to know a lot of natural expressions, but it's clear from this clip, which was filmed in 2017, that her knowledge of vocabulary words is a bit lacking. Here she's being taught the word 단위, which means unit. This word is used when you're talking about counters in Korean, which are words that are used when you're counting things.
집을 세는 단위? 단위가 무슨 뜻이야?
But keep in mind that Momo learned Korean mostly just through speaking, so it's understandable that she wouldn't know a more technical word like 단위.
맞죠?
How would you explain the word unit to someone who's learning Korean? In Korean, 물건 살 때 쓰는 단어?
아! 어떻게 세는지 이거지?
네.
이거죠.
Notice how she switches politeness levels here. And it's actually a mistake when she first says 이거지.
이거지?
네.
이거죠.
이거지 is just, it's this, right? And she realizes right away that she used the wrong politeness level. Because the ji at the end, which can also be eg when it follows a consonant, is only appropriate when you're speaking casually to someone. Momo is much older than the kid, so normally it wouldn't be strange if she were to use casual speech to him. However, just because you can use casual speech to someone doesn't mean it's always appropriate. In this case, this kid who's younger than her is acting as her Korean teacher. And everything else that Momo says to him ends with yo or other polite speech. So the fact that she switched in one sentence and used casual speech would actually be incorrect for this situation. And she immediately realizes this and corrects herself and says 이거죠? 조 is the more polite version of 지.
이거지?
네.
이거죠.
And I think this shows that Momo has really good situational awareness in Korean. And she's familiar with politeness levels. And although she probably would be more comfortable speaking in casual speech, she realizes right away that she should be more polite and fixes it. So no harm, no foul.
두 번째는 이제 뜨개질 매듭을 세는 단위.
레드불?
네.
레드불?
매듭.
레드불?
Here the teacher is explaining another unit that's used for counting knots when you're doing 뜨개질, which is knitting. I actually didn't know this counter, which is used for counting knots, but it turns out to be 코, like your nose. So Momo didn't know the word 매듭, which means a knot, and she actually thought he was saying the word 레드불 for the energy drink Red Bull.
레드불?
네.
레드불? 레드불?
She also didn't seem to know the related vocabulary words used, 뜨개질 for knitting and 바느질 for sewing. Does it really matter? She's so adorable. Momo, it's okay. 이런 말은 꼭 알아야 되는 건 아니야. So what did you think of Sana and Momo's Korean? And who would you like to see me analyze next? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this and would like to see more, please give this video a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.